All right, people, we are in Cincinnati this week. Cincy tennis, as they would call it. Natty, as some other people would call it. And Rafa Nadal is back in action. So I think the abdominal is healed and he's in the draw, which makes it awesome. And Daniil Medvedev might play Nick Kyrgios again in the quarterfinals. So we're going to break down the ATP draw, look at the quarterfinal matchups. We're also going to take a look at the WTA draw, where Simona Halep won last week in Toronto. Draws are wide open on the WTA. Nobody knows what's going to happen, and that keeps it exciting. So here's the slice on Cincinnati, doing a preview presented by PointsBet Canada. Let's get into it.
Hey guys, this is Casper Ruud.
Hey, it's Denis Shapovalov.
And welcome to The Slice.
All right, people. How's it going? How are you? Welcome back to the show. Welcome back to The Slice. Last week was busy in Canada. What a week. What a crowd. Can we just give a shout out to the Canadian crowds in Toronto and Montreal? Sold out for both finals, even without big Canadian stars or really big, top 5 players in either of the finals. Full crowds, full enthusiasm. Canadian tennis is on the rise, and the excitement and the energy in those crowds was just awesome to see. So thank you, Canada, for showing out and showing the tennis world. Literally, I saw people from all over just tweeting that, these are some of the best crowds of the year so far in the ATP or WTA in general. So very awesome stuff in Canada. Subscribe if you haven't. If you're new here, welcome to The Slice. I'm Steven. This is your destination for all things tennis, professional news, and content that brings you closer to the game. Also, just do me a favor here and follow at The Slice Tennis on Twitter. That's our new company Twitter handle. That will help us out. And The Slice is brought to you by PointsBet Canada, our partners, our presenting sponsor. And I've got a couple of matches that I'd like. If you are of the betting type and if you're going to be in Ontario, you need to sign up for PointsBet Canada. 2 matches that I'm looking at. Berrettini versus TFO, round 1 at Cincinnati. They got Berrettini at 1.53 and TFO at 2.55. So you could almost 2.5 to 1 your money betting on TFO. I think he's a strong play right now, and Berrettini's kind of going through a weird lull, so that's one to look at. And then we got Shapovalov versus Grigor Dimitrov. Shapovalov's at 2-1, and Dimitrov's at 1.83. I think that's a toss-up. Shapovalov's been on a horrible streak, but Grigor's the type of guy who can miss a lot, so Shapovalov also misses a lot, so they could just, it could go either way. So Shapovalov, he's got to turn it around at some point, so you just got to think that this could be the time. So anyways, let's get into what this draw looks like. And to me, the big 2 stories are Daniil Medvedev being here. Lost fairly early, lost to Nick Kyrgios in the second round basically in Montreal. So he lost like 950 points. So he's down to just above Zverev for number 1 ranking right now. And Nadal could actually pass him here in Cincinnati if Nadal was to win the tournament. And basically, the only way that could happen is if Nadal was to win the tournament and Medvedev was to lose like in his first match, Nadal would overtake him. But that's not likely to happen. I mean, it could. I don't know which would be less likely, Nadal winning the tournament or Medvedev losing in his first match. But just taking a quick look at their routes to the final, where they would be scheduled to play as the 1 and 2 seeds. Medvedev's got Botic Van de Zandschulp in his first match. So that's actually a pretty tough match. And then he could play either Tommy Paul, who played amazing in Montreal, Shapovalov, Brooksby, or Dimitrov. So no easy players there. Then Kyrgios in the quarterfinals, or Fritz or Rublev, and then Hurkacz or Tsitsipas in the semifinals. So that's a super tough route, in my opinion, for Medvedev. We'll see, though, because he didn't play, he lost early in Montreal. He's going to be pretty motivated to do well here in Cincinnati. And he has some points he can make, because I think he only made the semifinals last year. But I could be wrong on that. Nadal's route, a little bit easier maybe, but still difficult for sure. He's probably going to play Musetti in the second round, so that's an athletic young player to play for him. And then he'll either play Roberto Bautista Agut or Francisco Cerundolo. That could be tough either way. Fran caused all types of problems for him at Wimbledon, if you remember that. And then he could either play Felix Auger-Aliassime, Canadian, or Sinner in the quarterfinals, and then Ruud or Alcaraz in the semifinals. So tough route as well for Nadal. So Nadal, he's back. Abdominal should be healed. He posted a cheeky picture from his home in Mallorca, which I went to Mallorca with my wife here a month or so ago. An amazing place. No wonder he's so good at tennis, because you just go back there. I feel like you're just totally refreshed. It's warm. It's just basically paradise. I love it. So he's back on the tour, which is awesome. Djokovic, not here, unfortunately. So there's been some talk about potentially the rules changing for Djokovic to be able to come into the country, which would be awesome for tennis. There's also some people are talking about he could like fly to Mexico and like drive across the border or walk across the border because they don't check vaccines there. So there's ways for him to get in, I feel like. Maybe he'll just do that. I don't know. Or like the Bahamas or something like that. I feel like there's other ways to get in, even if the rules don't change, but they might change. So we'll have to keep you updated on that story as it develops. Let's just take a look at where the ATP quarterfinals would shape out if they were to happen, just to see where the top 8 seeds are. On the top, we got Medvedev versus Rublev, and then we got Tsitsipas versus Hurkacz. So those 4 guys in the top half, solid. Ruud versus Alcaraz potentially in the quarterfinals, number 3. And then Felix versus Nadal in quarterfinals, number 4. Now, I've hyped up Felix too much different times. I got pretty carried away in Canada. I'm not going to lie. I was he is the mayor of Montreal. That's what I've been calling him. But, after he destroyed Cam Norrie, I was like, who can this guy not beat in a draw? And then he, came out and played probably the worst match I've seen him play in 3 years against Casper Ruud, and just got absolutely murdered. So I'm not going to hype up FAA too much, but a meeting with Nadal in the quarterfinals on a hard court, on a quick hard court, would be amazing, and I would love to watch that. So let's pray that happens. Are we all in agreement with that? I think we are. First round, crazy matchups, amazing matchups. Brooksby versus Paul, Shapovalov versus Dimitrov, Berrettini versus Tiafoe, Wawrinka versus Murray, Rune versus Norrie, Kokkinakis versus Sinner, all the first round. It's crazy. So that's happening today, probably mostly today or tomorrow. So yeah, just a great stack draw. Obviously without Djokovic, unfortunately, but everybody else basically is there in Cincinnati on the ATP. So that makes it a great draw. WTA, now it's wide open in my opinion. We got Beatriz Haddad-Maia taking out Swiatek in Toronto and then making the final, losing a close one. Good battle to Simona Halep, who Karina Mustafa on our team here, Romanian, both of them are Romanian. She loves Halep, so she's partying, Karina, on our team. And we'll have a North of the Net soon this week for you. But the WTA, in my opinion, has gone back. It was originally, like last year, was like anyone's show. Anyone could win any tournament. It seemed wide open all the time. And then earlier this year, it was obviously the Iga show, where it was just a one-woman show, and you're like, is she going to lose this tournament? No, okay, or yes, or no, she's not. That was like the whole storyline. Now it's back seemingly to being wide open, because for the last 4 tournaments, Swiatek's been not a super dominant number 1 at all. Lost a bunch of times. Back to normal ways, it seems. We're not on the clay where she's as dominant, and I don't think people fear her as much as they did. So I'm not even going to really take too much of a deep dive into this draw. I'm just going to check in once we get to the quarterfinals probably, because it's so hard to see any type of trends realizing until we actually get going with this. Big matches in the first round, though. Serena Williams versus Emma Raducanu. It was supposed to, okay, so this is weird. So it was supposed to be Monday night in Cincinnati. Obviously a massive match with Serena retiring. This is going to be her last ever Cincinnati. And it was supposed to be Monday night, but then I think because of some rain, which they can definitely get in Cincinnati, they had to move it to the next day. But people spent all this money to go watch or buy Monday night tickets, and it's not happening Monday night. So that's a big screw up, in my opinion, from the WTA. But I mean, if it rains, you can't really do much about it. But I don't think it was totally washed out. Also, it hasn't happened yet. So today's Monday. So I don't know what's going on there. Haddad-Maia versus Ostapenko is also the first round. That's kind of a saucy one, I thought, because Ostapenko is like a meme queen. It's so funny seeing her out there these days. Apparently she got a dog, and her dog's name is Balenciaga. And if you've seen her Barney outfits throughout the last few months on tour, it's just the absolute most atrocious outfits I've ever seen in tennis being worn, but she just rocks it, and she just has that attitude. It's like, F the world, I'm doing me, and you kind of got to respect that. So I don't know. The WTA in Cincinnati is wide open as well. Bianca Andreescu pulled out, Canadian. I don't know why. We don't really know why. But Leylah Fernandez is there. flying the flag. Also in Canadian news, we got the Vancouver Open Challenger, which we have a cameraman on the scene for, and we're going to get some questions from players, some special big players like Genie Bouchard, back in action, trying to make a comeback again. So lots of interesting stuff here on the Slice coming up, as there was last year. So stay tuned. Thanks for being here. Follow at the Slice Tennis on Twitter, and we will be keeping you guys updated on all of our channels. Thanks, guys. See you soon.